What's up, coach? Today, I'm going to be teaching you about how to create a VIP sales experience for your clients. And this is super important because not only are you going to be able to convert more leads who come into the door by making them feel like a VIP out of the gate, but it's also a critical component of retention. The sales and onboarding experience are where people subconsciously essentially decide how long they're going to work with you. So this is super important to get right, because you've really got to take some time to understand that you may not be the only person or the only option that your potential client is considering. And your potential client may have a history of dieting, working with other coaches, and things of that nature. So you actually have to look at them from a holistic perspective and recognize that a lot of marketing in the past was very pushy and fear-based, and there's a lot of things that they may have experienced. And if what you deliver in your sales experience feels the same as what didn't work for them in the past, then they're just going to assume that what you have won't work either. And so it's actually really good for you to figure out how to create a sales experience that feels different and feels good and elicits those positive emotions and a lot of trust in you and belief that you as a leader can help them actually achieve their goals. One thing I will say on this topic is that you, as a coach, have probably been through a setting process before for other business coaches before you decided to join the VIP Coach Mentorship. And the thing is, you probably felt like this is a lot of the same. This is a lot of the same conversations that I'm having. And so you can actually kind of secret shop other coaches. So if you're in Facebook groups and you have somebody reach out to you because you comment on a post and they think that you're a potential client and they're DMing you, secret shop them. Pretend that you are a potential client for a little bit and see what their process feels like. You might recognize that a lot of them, the process feels the same. And so any of the prospective clients that you might find out of that Facebook group or just in general in your niche probably has been aggressively sought out and chased down by these types of coaches. So if what you're doing feels the same as what they're doing, then people might think that you're a little bit of a cheesehead. And so we want to teach you and help you really dial in your sales scripts, especially DMs, so that what you're doing feels different, so that people are like, oh wow, actually you're really helpful. This feels a lot different. You're not just thinking about me as a number in your bank account. So that's a really important thing to take into account, as you want what you do on the front end to feel different. Another really important point here is that, this is these two bullet points here, because you've got to establish leadership in the sales process. Because in any relationship, really, there's, an alpha and a beta to some degree, and you've got to step in and be the alpha, because the thing is, your clients, they want somebody who they can be confident is going to lead them, who is going to shepherd them towards the outcome that they want to achieve. The thing is, we all want our clients to become self-sufficient and self-sustaining. But the thing is, they haven't got to where they want to go because they haven't figured out how to do it for themselves yet. So, they are looking to essentially abdicate responsibility to you to help them find that within themselves. And so you've got to actually establish that early on in the sales process that, you're a leader, you're somebody who is confident that you can help them. You also want to make sure that you're providing, personal connection and establishing that trust, which I'll teach you a little bit more about as we go through this training. Now, you may recognize some of this from the VIP onboarding slides and presentation if you've already gone through that. But ultimately, a VIP sales experience increases buyers' excitement. So when you provide a VIP sales experience, by the time that they sign up, they're so excited to work with you that there's not even a chance that they can have buyer's remorse, especially if you have a great onboarding process that matches how awesome your sales process is. So they'll be entering that program with excitement. They'll have trust with you. They may already be winning. They may already have momentum. And this trust being built up in the sales experience means that those clients coming in the door are going to be more compliant, especially if they've implemented, stuff from your free trainings and they're already getting those micro wins and they've already got some momentum. Those are going to be the best clients who stick around with you for the longest. Your relationship's going to be set up for the long term. And ultimately, you've got a client who's going to end up sticking around forever and referring everyone they know in to you. So just to overview the components of a VIP sales experience, first thing that we'll talk about is VIP lead onboarding. So we've got VIP client onboarding, which we'll teach you about or you've already learned, but we're going to teach you how to onboard your leads. This is very, very important and not something that a lot of people overlook. They see their leads as numbers. If you see your clients as numbers, that's terrible. But if you see your leads as numbers, that's bloody not good either. So we gotta start putting faces to names. You want to make sure that you're providing real value to your prospective clients via micro wins, and I'll show you how to engineer those micro wins for your highest urgency leads, the people who are most likely to be buyers. It's really important not to rush to the finish, and I'll show you how to have the situational awareness to be able to determine when's the right time to move somebody towards committing to your program. And you've got to build trust. Part of that is challenging the prospects, but being on the same side of the table as them, really being as committed to their goals or more committed than they are, having that belief in them. But you really got to build trust by establishing your character and your competence. This is something I've taught in one of our marketing trainings as well, but I'm going to rehash it here so you know how to do it within the sales experience. So one of the most important mantras that we have internally with our sales team, admittedly, some of you may have gone through the process before we moved our sales team completely internally. Prior we, had some sales trainers and whatnot that essentially it was about driving numbers and, really just moving people onto a call and through the sales process. But actually, when we switched our sales team mantra to be helpful and really focusing on, okay, how many coaches did you help this week as the key success metric for the sales team, the business really started to thrive. And we believe that if your mantra is to be helpful to your prospective clients, then you can't help but be successful. And the really important thing here is stepping into a mindset of becoming attractive versus forcing. So, some of the old ways of doing organic marketing and doing outreach and all that is about just like establishing fake rapport and pitching somebody really quickly and just like moving through the numbers. It'd be like going to a bar and immediately trying to kiss every, person of the, that you're attracted to and just hoping that they want to reciprocate, but you're going to get a few slaps in the process. Versus attraction, and we all know what it is to be attractive. So you really want to come into your sales process with a mindset of how can I attract the right leads in versus force? Because if you're constantly forcing, you're going to burn out. But if you're just hanging back and you're doing your thing and you're attracting people in, you're going to have infinite energy for that. So we're going to go through all of the different components of a VIP sales experience. First and foremost being VIP, the VIP onboarding of your leads. So I'm actually going to pop over to, we've got our VIP client onboarding, where essentially your goal is to reinforce their decision, integrate and expand their vision, remove and mitigate doubt, and listen. And so we're just going to pop over here and rehash this and look at how these apply to the sales experience versus the client experience. So objective number one is to reinforce their decision, because after they have purchased from you, you want them to feel like they made the right choice. You don't want buyer's remorse to set in. Now, you actually have to start seeing them, opting into your group or opting in for a lead magnet or whatever it happens to be, however they join your tribe. You want to reinforce their decision that they're in the right place, that they joined the right tribe, that this is the path that they need to be on in order to eventually achieve their goals. So the way that we do reinforcement of their decision in the onboarding process is to essentially get a high excitement reinforcement they made the right choice. One way you might do that is with a personalized video. After somebody signs up, after the sale has been made, you immediately do a quick video showing them how excited you are and making sure that you're getting that onboarding call scheduled as fast as possible. The other thing is you want to show them, some proof or maybe a case study of a client just like them, so that it really reinforces their decision that, hey, even though I'm here today, 30 pounds overweight, Matt did it and he was in a really similar situation to me. So I feel like I can do it too with this coach's support. And the other thing is if you can give them a really simple assignment, so easy that they can't fail, that's going to reinforce their decision, because they're going to realize, oh, all right, this is easy. This process is easy. So how can we apply this to the sales experience? Well, if somebody joins your Facebook group, perhaps you send them a quick personal video message. It could be 10 seconds. if you're only getting like 5, 10, 15 people joining your group per day, like if you send a bunch of 10, 15-second videos, it can be the same script every time. Like, hey, Matt, so glad you joined the online nutrition coach community. We feel like this is the best place possible to learn how to actually provide a VIP experience to clients so that you have amazing retention, you get a bunch of referrals, and I'm stoked that you decided to join on the journey. I'll be reaching out again just to see how you're going. 10, 15 seconds, and you've essentially made them feel like a real VIP. And then from there, you might send over or tag them in some of the case study interviews you've done that you feel like might be relevant for them based off any information you've collected at that point. And you might give them a really simple assignment at some point, so easy that they can't fail. Things like introduce yourself in the group, or, let me know what your favorite food is, or something like that. That way, you're starting to get a little bit of engagement and momentum, and they're starting to feel like I can do this. I can do this in this community. All right, so then we've got objective 2, which is to integrate and expand their vision. Oops, let's get this fixed. So when they're a client, you're going to integrate them into your ecosystem, into your community, make them feel like they joined something bigger than themselves. And so you can absolutely do this within your audience. So do you stand for something? If you stand for something, put that front and center. It's like we stand for helping coaches build a VIP experience so that they get better results for their clients. It's a more fulfilling business for them, and they can live the lifestyle that they want. And so, we've got our VIP Coach Manifesto, which you've in the journal you've received, you've got the VIP Manifesto. You can read that every day. So is there a way, maybe in the welcome post for your Facebook group, or is there something that you can do with your content that you put in front of them to make them feel like they joined something bigger than themselves, that there's actually, a bigger picture, a bigger vision, a tribe that's on their side? So that's something that you can absolutely integrate into your sales experience before they even become a client. Maybe you're not going to send them, a notebook that costs you $25 to produce and ship, but there's a lot of things you can also do. All right, and then objective 3, remove or mitigate doubt. So the thing is, once somebody's bought something, it's like, okay, I've solved my problem. I've invested my money. But then during the onboarding process, they realize the work begins. And the same goes when somebody downloads a lead magnet, or, they join a Facebook group and the promise is that it's going to help them get to their goal. They're like, yes, I did the thing. There's that dopamine rush. It's like, I've solved my problem. But then they realize, oh man, now I got to watch a few live videos and I got to do this and that. You've got to anticipate the emotional journey that they're on, but you've also got to anticipate how it is that people generally interact with PDFs or calculators or, Facebook groups or whatever it happens to be that you're using to attract somebody into your community. And if you can anticipate that somebody is just going to download it and then they're going to realize, actually, this is too hard, or they just kind of put it into a folder, never to look at it again, you can address that head on. Be like, hey, I know that sometimes people download this, or they go through this challenge, or they join the community, and then, they think I'll engage with that, a week from now, and then they forget all about it. But then if you can say, one of the things that we find is if you just, take a picture of your food and post it in the group every day this week, that's something that really helps members of the community, stay accountable towards their goals and, start to get integrated into the community, whatever happens to be. And from there, you can also let them know, essentially, hey, the group that we're in, there's a wall, you can ask for support within the group, and, maybe your peers and a member of the team can help you out. But we've also got, this and that, free resources that can help you on the journey as well. And the other thing is something you can do to remove and mitigate doubt. We already kind of covered here. We already covered here with a reinforcement, case study or proof. And it's okay to hammer somebody like this with love when they join your tribe, because you really want to make sure that you're onboarding them and that they're not just going to be another person who downloads something or joins a community and never interacts or takes advantage of what's available. And then the last thing of listening, this really comes down to the actual, when you have a conversation with them, making them feel heard is really important. So let's get back into this. So that's the VIP onboarding process. The next thing that you've got to really engineer within your sales experience is creating micro wins for your leads. But the thing is, you want to focus on your highest urgency leads. Highest urgency leads are the people who they're like right there. They've got something that it's like they have a reason for wanting to sign up for your program. There's like essentially the hierarchy of awareness, where some people, they're not aware whatsoever that they've got a problem that needs to be solved. Some people are like, oh, I've got a problem, I'm overweight, but they're not really sure what solution they're looking for. There's people who are solution aware, where they're like, oh, I'm overweight and I need a nutrition coach. And then there's people who are essentially brand aware. They're like, oh, I'm overweight, I need a nutrition coach, and Beyond Macros is, the one that I want to look at. And so you want to start looking at, okay, for your highest urgency leads, for those people who are like, I need a nutrition coach, or I need you to be my nutrition coach. What are they struggling with they wish would go away? Or what is their single biggest desire? You can go back to your market research, your client intake forms, notes from client calls. You want to actually get the language from your buyers, and that will help you identify for your highest urgency leads, what do they want? Because we want to move those people who are highest urgency into our program as seamlessly as possible. That's where we want to direct a lot of our sales experience versus the people who, they have no idea what they need or what they want. And they just clicked on some random thing and ended up in front of you. All right. So once we've established what our highest urgency leads struggle with that they wish would go away, what's something we can give away to help them solve one of those problems? Doesn't have to be huge. It can just be something that gets them a little bit of momentum. Again, it's a micro win. You don't have to be like, oh, I can give away all of my coaching and they're going to lose the 30 pounds. Or, it can be really simple. It's like, oh, they really struggle with when they're on the road, figuring out what to eat when, they're at Chipotle, something like that. Then it's like, okay, what can you give away to help them make sure that they understand how to construct a great meal at Chipotle or similar restaurants? What's their single biggest desire? What's something you can give away to help them make meaningful progress towards it? So their single biggest desire might actually be that they feel confident getting back into dating, for people who, are perhaps divorcees in their 40s that you work with. And so you might not have to help them lose weight initially to do that. You might actually be able to help them make meaningful progress towards that single biggest desire by doing something when it comes to mindset or inserting another habit throughout into their life. And so you don't want to just think super one-dimensionally, like, how do I do this from a nutrition perspective, but how can you do this for them from a holistic perspective? What value can you provide? What micro win can you get them? Because ultimately, if you can create a micro win for them and they start moving in the right direction, those people who didn't believe in themselves may start believing in themselves. And those people are also going to believe that, wow, I didn't believe in myself before, but I did this thing. And with Matt's help, now I'm starting to make progress. So with Matt's help, I can continue to make progress. And that's really important. And that's going to lead us into, we'll jump into the understanding your prospects' trust journey first. So you've got to understand that your prospects, anybody who is ice cold, they came from cold traffic sources, you found them, somewhere, they're probably initially going to be like, who the heck is Matt? Even if you're a guest in somebody's borrowed audience, they're still initially going to be like, who the heck is Matt? There might be a little bit of trust built up because they trust whoever is the owner of that audience to bring good people into their world. But, ultimately they got to go from who the heck are you to like, oh, you seem to know about, nutrition coaching. You seem to know about, how to feel confident dating again if you're a divorcee in your 40s. Like, they're eventually going to be like, oh, they seem to know about this, and maybe I should check them out. And then they're going to go from, oh, maybe I should check them out, which means that now they're like, they've gone from they're solution aware to now they're like brand aware. And then they're going to be like, oh, actually, you know what? I need help. They're really, really aware of their problem, the solution, and the brand. They're like, all right, Matt seems to have the solution. So then eventually we got to get them from who the heck is Matt to, wow, there's literally nobody else that can solve my specific problems except Matt. And this comes from your Monopoly offers as well as your content. So we got to take your prospects through that trust journey. And it's important to know that's a journey that they're going to go through. And we got to take them through it. And we'll go over, essentially, there's two major components of trust. The first one is going to be competence, and the second one is going to be character. And so I might trust let's say, my brother-in-law to babysit my kids. But the thing is, I wouldn't trust my brother-in-law to do brain surgery on me. And so I trust his character, let's say, so I would, leave him alone with my kids. But I don't trust his competence when it comes to, the brain and nervous system and surgery enough to trust him to, do surgery on my head. So we need to make sure that both of these components are in place. If you have a doctor, you want to make sure that, they have a character that you can trust, that they're not going to, when you're under anesthetic, do any creepy stuff. But you also want to make sure that they have the skills necessary to, make sure that they fix whatever's wrong. So we got to make sure those are in place. With competence, the easiest way to engineer this is by essentially creating content, especially on the front end, that gets them micro wins, that shows that you've got skill and experience that is necessary to get them towards their goals. But something else that you can do, especially if you're at the accelerator level, is you can create ubiquity or omnipresence for yourself. And I'll just quickly talk about Tim Ferriss when he was launching the 4-Hour Workweek. He knew that 20, 30 something, dudes in the tech industry were going to be the ones who would be the perfect reader for his book. And so he was like, okay, what do they watch? What do they read? Where do they hang out? And he knew that they were reading like Wired, TechCrunch, Mashable, like all of these different things. So Tim Ferriss, having a limited amount of energy and time and budget to promote the book, focused all of his budget, energy, time into TechCrunch, Mashable, Wired, all of the places where his ideal client was or his ideal reader was. And to them, it looked like he was everywhere. He wasn't everywhere, but he was everywhere where they go. And so, by seeming like you're everywhere, people just assume that you're competent, especially if you're in places that have high authority. So this comes from borrowed audiences, especially. And then with character, with borrowed audiences, sometimes you can borrow your character, essentially borrow your trust from them because they trust the person who owns that audience. So therefore that trust is transferred to you. And if you are able to display your values, especially with the content that you put out that's not necessarily competence, posting or competence content, but the type of content where you're just like, here I am out in nature. I love nature. I, contribute to nature charities, blah, blah, blah. People are going to be like, oh, I vibe with Matt's values. And if you have any shared experience, if you are your ideal client, you just have gone through the journey that they're on and, they're at the bottom of the mountain, you're at the top. If you are able to display that shared experience that you have with them, there's going to be a higher level of trust because ultimately people are more likely to feel like somebody who is like them can help them because there's an implied trust, which we're talking about. There's an implied trust because they think this person understands me. This person gets me because they're like me. All right. Now let's pop back because the other thing about engineering a VIP sales experience is making sure you go at the pace of nature. And I love this from Ralph Waldo Emerson, adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. And so this goes back to the mantra of be helpful because the thing is, you have to recognize that a flower doesn't fight and push and force its way out of the ground, out of the plant that it's growing from. The plant takes time. It goes through, there's a lot of nurturing. It allows itself to be nurtured by the sun. It allows itself to be nurtured by the nutrients in the soil. It allows itself to be nurtured by the rain falling on it. It allows itself, it attracts this nurturing in. It's nurtured. It doesn't force. And so you actually have to have the situational awareness to know, is it time to have an offer conversation with a lead? Have they been nurtured enough that it's time to flower? If they have not, if they're still in the vegetative stage where essentially, they've got to have some nurturing in order to get to this point where it's right for an offer conversation. Well, what nurturing do they need to flower? Do they need sunlight? Do they need water? What do you think it is? And the things that it could be are, do they need a few more pieces of content to just build some trust in you? Do they need to understand your philosophy so that they essentially understand your values? And as well as is your philosophy, is it sound? Does it make sense to them? You also might have people who they just need a few mindset shifts or a few belief shifts in order to be in a position where they're ready to have an offer conversation, in order to be in a position where they're ready to believe that with help, they can actually achieve their goals. So you've got to take some time to understand what nurturing do they need. Now, Sean is absolutely amazing when it comes to situational awareness. So definitely make sure that you are getting onto the messaging calls with Sean, because he's going to be able to transfer his skill in this to you. But this, situational awareness, it does just in a way come from getting out, having conversations with people, and starting to pick up on the clues for when people are ready to flower and when people need more nurturing. So I just wanted to give you a quick example of, for example, how we've implemented a number of these components ourselves. So, one example would be Client Launchpad Challenge. It's something that gets prospects a micro win. Actually, it gets them a pretty big win, the first client. Once they've gone through the Client Launchpad Challenge, they're in the group. And, we provide ongoing value in there. It builds trust. We show our character, we show our competence. And when somebody is in the group, a real person, whether it's, me or somebody else, is going to reach out to them with a service versus a sales agenda. So this is VIP onboarding. Before I was telling you in the past, through some sales trainings, it was like, force, force, force. Well, we've changed. The mantra is be helpful. So it's, service versus sales agenda. Let's get this person onboarded to our world and let them make a decision whether or not they want to invest further with us. So once that happens, the team member is going to seek to understand their business. They're listening. Stage 4 of VIP onboarding. They're going to provide value via free resource training. Maybe they get on a no pitch value call to stack even more wins. This is nurturing until they're ready to flower. And once they get on that call, once it seems like an offer conversation is in the cards, then if it makes sense, if it's the next best step, then we schedule them in, or, maybe you got scheduled in. And from there, if somebody still needs to take a few simple steps first, then, we can provide some guidance and accountability. And so this is how, we've ultimately decided to implement it within our business, but there's many different ways that you can do it that fit how you want to run your business. All right, so just to recap some of the tools of a VIP sales experience, one of them is definitely an irresistible front-end offer that gets people your highest urgency leads, those micro wins. If you've got your content that's speaking to your soulmate client, which Kate is the best at, so make sure you get on those calls with her. That's something that's going to help establish your character, your competence, the main components of trust. If you can provide non-invasive one-to-one touch points, especially ones that feel different from maybe a bunch of the MLM mamas who are pitching them on their products and their business opportunities, then, that can be a really good way to start establishing that trust as well. And obviously onboarding processes and understanding that onboarding isn't just for new clients, it's also for leads. And if you get all of this down, if you get all of these tools in your toolkit, you're going to see that your conversion rate on any lead who comes into your world is going to be much, much higher than if you go in with a just push, force, you're nothing to me until you invest mentality. All right. So hope that was helpful. Hope that shifted your perspective. Till next time, much love.